we do B and C if A is not completed. If we do B and C and not A, it's like the same thing as trying to dredge a river out to increase the traffic, boat traffic, but still needing a tugboat to get the boats out of the mouth of the river. We're just going to bottleneck all the traffic, so why do it? My option would be to improve the roads 143 and 28 and do a 2-lane tunnel for section A if we want to do that. Thank you.
Would please state your name and address, we'll have that for the record.
My name is Sherry Beasley. I live at the end of Pinhook, which is off the Stillwater. My property is not directly affected, but I feel for everyone whose it is. If I could sell my 5 acres for $10 million after this, I might be tempted, but it's not going to happen. As everyone has stated, I believe it would be a detriment to Graham County. As far as these jobs that's going to come in, we almost died of thirst a couple of years ago when it rained. Graham County doesn't have the facilities to support a lot of industry. Real estate's too expensive. The water supply is not good. There's no empty industrial park sitting around. Bryson City has a 4-lane. They have people out of work. Companies, they can't. Everything's in China. We all know that. So jobs, maybe a few hamburgers will be sold. That's about it. I really believe that Graham County is just sort of in the way. They want to finish the project. There's a lot of construction companies who can make a lot of money, and the DOT, it looks good. They make it sound good, but not for Graham County. Possibly Chattanooga, Asheville, the big companies. We're just sort of in the way, and they have to deal with us, and they want to make it sound good. Some other alternative, perhaps, but certainly not the way it is. It's too beautiful to ruin. We can go to Maryville only in the wintertime because most of us are just about afraid to drive the Dragon. And not because of 318 or 11 cars. I can drive those cars. It's the traffic. It's the speakers and that kind of thing. The trucks that go from Stanley, they know how to drive these roads. They don't need a 4-lane to do it. They make it just fine, it seems to me. You don't see Stanley trucks on the side of the road. You see motorcycles because they're speeding. They don't know how to drive the roads like we do here. Like I said, for Graham County, it's not necessary. It's Graham County is what it is. It's remote, it's beautiful, it's peaceful. And if I could just ask, if anybody would like to say they're against it, would they raise their hand? All right. Against the road. Right, against the road, at least like it is. And security can have a better alternative if it becomes necessary. If they push it through and we have to have it, then certainly not the way it is. Thank you very much.
Mr. Carpenter, and then after Mr. Carpenter, Melanie Mays and David Monteith. And that's Tom Carpenter.
He's left.
Okay. Then Melanie Mays.
Hi everyone. I'm Melanie Mays. I live in Knoxville. We've got all kinds of expressways up there. That's why I come down here to go hiking and do fun outdoor things. So I hope it doesn't get ruined. I'm here basically because I'm a geologist. I have a PhD in geology. That's the field that I'm employed in. And I'm here to share with you what I know about the geologic hazards associated with the construction of this road. I have reviewed the 1984 EIS as well as the updated 2008 version. I've also reviewed a couple of memos from geologist consultants that are through the NC DOT. These were both done in the 1990s, and they were basically saying, well, we've got this 1984 EIS. Here's what we need to do to really make it happen. Here's the second one. I've also looked through a number of published literature, publications. Here's an example of one. This is the Murphy Belt, the local geology. So I've done as thorough of a review as, say, an unpaid volunteer might do. So here's what I know. There are two major geological hazards associated with this. One of them is slope failure. The other one is acid drainage. Slope failure, of course, we're all familiar with that. It just happened in the I-40 gorge. It happened in 2004. It happened in 1997. Yada yada. It happens on the Blue Ridge Parkway, 441. It happens basically on any road that's built through mountainous terrain. It is unavoidable. Yes, I know that NCDOT says, oh, but we have better methods now. It's true, they do have better construction methods, but it's still unavoidable. It's still going to happen. This road is not a magic bullet. It doesn't mean that you're never going to have a slope failure and a road closure again. It's still going to happen. The reason why is this. When our mountains were formed, the original horizontal layers, so when sediments are laid down, they're laid down very horizontally. When you get mountains, what happens to those? Those sediments get really all crunched up and they get bent and broken up. This area here is very highly deformed, so the rocks are very, very convoluted. Many of them end up being in a much more vertical position because all of the force came from the southeast. So all the beds throughout all of the Appalachian Mountains dip steeply towards the southeast. Right now, soil and vegetation covers these rocks that are under there, and that helps hold them together. But when we excavate, what happens is we expose all of these rocks. We allow rainwater to directly interact with them. What this causes is enhanced weathering of the rocks and enhanced weathering of that interface between, say, rocks and soil. In the wintertime, when it gets cold, then the water gets into these little cracks and it expands. And so it creates greater instability. So when we go in there and we expose all of these rocks, we greatly, greatly enhance the amount of weathering and the potential for slope failure compared with what it was before. So slope failure is inevitable here. And the outcome, of course, as we all know, is very expensive. I-40, for instance, is going to be closed for several months. It's dangerous. People have to clean this up. People were driving that road when it happened. It's destructive to the streams because every time that happens, of course, you're going to get a lot of sediment that washes its way into the local streams. And it will impact local communities. And once it's cleaned up, you're still going to have permanent scars. So this is an unavoidable problem. There are certain protections that we can do to help this. We do have to build roads. The best protection really doesn't come after it happens. It comes when you're planning your route. Okay? So you have to choose your route wisely. Several things. Try to avoid building on a north slope. The north slope, this freeze-thaw, is a lot worse. Don't build at high elevations. Make the road as small of a footprint as you can. Find out what kind of rocks are underneath before you decide what you're going to build. As it's now presented, this road really does none of those things. In this EIS, for instance, there is no geologic map, not a single one. As far as I can tell, I know that they have done a fair amount of drilling and preparation. None of that is shared in this EIS. There's another risk, too. It's associated with acid drainage of the rocks. That is when there is iron sulfides present within the rocks. It essentially, when it forms with water, it forms battery acid. This can get into streams. This is a very widespread problem in the Appalachians. But the word acid is really mentioned, say, once or twice here. There are no methods for how we're going to mediate this, how widespread of a problem might be. And finally, the last section, Section A, which is not included with this, has a formation there. It's the Nantahala